So we're going to talk a little bit about how to read a poem. And of course, poetry is the most challenging kind of literary writing. We've all experienced that. In your first reading, you may not well understand what the poem is about. Ah, yes, you felt that, haven't you? Don't jump too swiftly to any conclusions about the poem's meaning. Also, don't be disheartened if nothing makes sense either. Poets often have this tendency to be very elusive as far as meaning goes. I don't blame you for feeling like that. Let's look at a particular kind of, exploration. So step one could be to identify. And maybe we could start with tone, mood, quality, content. So read the poem many times, out loud if possible. Don't do that in an exam. You may get thrown out. After the second or third reading, write down any features you find interesting or unusual, including but not only the poet's tone or voice, the poem's mood, if the poem has some kind of argument, maybe a story, a narrative, if it is descriptive, what is it describing? And then move on to identify the voice or diction. And let's look at a couple of questions in this. So is the poet writing in his or her own voice? Is he using a persona or mask? If either of these two, then how is this evident, if indeed it is? For example, a female poet may be writing as a main character or as an animal. You should also at this point look at the language chosen, which is also called diction by the poet. Which words stand out? Why do they stand out? Are they harsh sounding words? Are they using a lot of guttural sounds? Are the words somewhat complicated? Too many adverbs? Look at those kinds of things. Let's then identify the stylistic devices. Which elements are used and are repeated? There's a whole list of them. Alliteration, assonance, consonants being the most commonly repeated things. Then look at the rhyme at the ends of lines. Look at the rhythm. Count the syllables in the lines. Look at metaphor or extended metaphor, personification, simile, any other kinds of elements. We've also got allusion, allegory, anaphora. If so, which type? Does it appear at the beginning, at the end? Is it words, phrases, lines? Sometimes, as in ballads, it will be an entire stanza. Any of the 7 types of sensory images, synecdoche maybe, and of course any other literary device. Of course, as you know, there are too many. We can't put them all down in this. Now, the next step is from the words to the purpose and audience. Look at what sorts of images these devices create. For example, a metaphor would draw a picture by comparison. Let's say we look at the most common one, a brave lion. You would be looking not just at a picture, imagining a lion and something or someone quite brave. Then what might the poem's images suggest? Is the image trying to tell you something more than what the words actually represent? Then what might they symbolize? What might the poet's purpose in using these devices and creating such imagery be? Let's also then look at who the poem is aimed at. Sometimes this is identifiable. Sometimes it's the reader directly. It could be the narrative, second person narrative being used. or it could be a larger public, um, or someone specifically in a larger public, like you women or you men or you animals, whatever it is. The next thing to do is identify structure. Look at how many lines there are. For example, a sonnet is very easily identifiable because it would have 14 lines. Look at the significance of how the lines are arranged. Then go on to look at the pattern that there could be in those lines. Do they have a regular meter? You can arrive at the meter by counting the syllables. Then look at the rhyme scheme. Is it regular? Is it irregular? And remember, AB is not the only regular kind of rhyme scheme. You could have an ABBA, you could have an ABCB, those are also regular. Look at whether the lines are enjambed, whether the stanzas are comprised of enjambed lines. Also look at caesura because that breaks the rhythm in the lines. Then we would dig a little deeper into the theme. Ask the question, what could this poem be about? Let's say nothing is apparent. Put down some ideas about what themes could be at the heart of the poem. Often these can be derived by exploring how the poem makes you feel about the subject being discussed or written about. Now, while you're writing about a theme, if you're unsure, it is best to use tentative vocabulary such as it appears to be about, or the poet seems to have explored, rather than go dashing in there like a knight saying, definite things. That may be a complete misinterpretation of the thematic content. Moving on to reading and commenting, where you create a commentary. These are the steps that you've followed. You've identified the tone, mood, quality, and content. You have identified the voice, the diction. You've identified the stylistic devices. You've identified the purpose and the audience. You've identified the structure, and you've identified the theme or themes. We'll put all of that down on one side. Look at each of these in terms of the effect. Each of these, as I said, in terms of the effect. That is where you begin to create a commentary, whether it's a written one or an oral one. Remember, without talking about the effect, it doesn't become a commentary. It just becomes an explanation, maximum, and identification of the various features. And finally, you have to be very careful about not leaving it without a conclusion. So you've talked about all the effects, but you must talk about the overall impact, connect it back to the theme, and especially talk about what impact it had on the reader, that would be you. Now be very careful to make this a personal literary response. By literary, I mean, don't forget it is a boring poem, right? All that it does is to create the image of a person who is bored, not a person who has just studied and read a poem. So absolutely avoid remarks like that in your conclusion. And have fun.